My name is Amelia Rowan. I'm 32 years old, and I'm still trying to process how one conversation about our day turned into the death of our relationship and the beginning of a whole new version of me. 4 weeks ago, my then fiancé and I were sitting at the dining table, surrounded by printouts and color coded notes. We'd been together for 5 years, engaged for one. Wedding planning had gone, shockingly, almost smooth. The venue was booked, the Redwood Grove, this stunning outdoor space with towering trees and soft lights, mostly paid for from my savings. Caterers were chosen, playlists drafted, my sister already crying over the idea of her speech. It felt like everything was finally coming together. Then he cleared his throat, straightened the edge of the guest list, and dropped a bomb. Amelia, he said, voice oddly cool, about your family. I've been thinking, and I've decided they can't come to the wedding. For a second, I thought I misheard him. I blinked, choked on my own breath. I'm sorry, what? My family? As in, my parents? My sister, who you asked to be a bridesmaid? My aunts, uncles, cousins? He didn't flinch. Yes, all of them. It's just, they're a bit much. This is our day, and I want it to be perfect. Sophisticated, not chaotic. The words landed like ice in my veins. My parents, who had helped us with a down payment when we rented our first apartment together. My sister, who had listened to me gush about him for years, who defended him even when he didn't deserve it. They love you, I said slowly. They've been nothing but welcoming. What on earth are you talking about? They're not our kind of people, Amelia, he replied, looking at me like he was explaining something obvious. They're loud, a little unrefined. My mother agrees it's better this way. We can keep it intimate, classy. End of discussion. End of discussion. He said it like he was closing a spreadsheet, like my entire family could be minimized and deleted with one click. I felt my blood go from boiling to frozen in about 3 seconds. He wasn't asking. He was dictating. There is no wedding without my family, I said quietly. My voice didn't even sound like mine. That's not a discussion. That's a fact. He sighed, as if I were being unreasonable. Don't be dramatic. It's a simple boundary. Either they're not there, or perhaps we need to reconsider this whole thing if you can't prioritize my comfort. He stood up as he said it, like he was giving me space to absorb his generosity, his conditions. In that moment, something inside me snapped, not in a loud, explosive way, but in a quiet, permanent way, a string that could never be tied back together. Okay, I said, standing up slowly. I'm reconsidering. I didn't shout. I didn't throw anything. I walked into the bedroom, pulled my suitcase from under the bed, and started packing. Calmly, methodically. Jeans, shirts, underwear, the dress I'd worn on our first anniversary. My hands shook, but not enough to stop me. He followed me down the hall, his voice rising now. Amelia, what are you doing? Stop. You're actually packing? You can't be serious. You said end of discussion, I replied, folding a sweater. I heard you. This discussion is over. We're over. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. You're going to end our engagement, our life together, over this, because I want our wedding to be a certain way, after everything we've built? His eyes were wet, his jaw clenched, but I couldn't tell if it was grief or just fury that his control had slipped. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I heard my mother's laugh, my father's bad jokes at dinner, my sister's delighted scream when I had first told her I was engaged. The idea of walking down an aisle in front of strangers while the people who raised me sat at home like they were an embarrassment made my stomach turn. Later that night, his ex-girlfriend Zoe, who had conveniently become his closest friend and was supposed to be my maid of honor, called me. Amelia, he's a mess, she said, skipping any pretense of small talk. You can't just walk out like this. He didn't mean it the way it sounded. You know how stressed he is about making the wedding perfect. He meant every word, I said. He told me my family isn't our kind of people. He said end of discussion. That's not stress, Zoe. That's cruelty. You're overreacting, she insisted. He loves you. He just wants a certain vibe. You're really going to throw away 5 years over this? I hung up before she could finish. I knew she'd run back to him and cry about how difficult I was being. I also knew that none of that mattered anymore. On Monday morning, I called the Redwood Grove first thing. The contract was in my name. The hefty deposit and second installment had come from my bank account, my careful savings. I explained that the wedding was off and asked about cancellation. The coordinator sounded sympathetic but firm. The deposit would be forfeited. My chest tightened, but I took a breath. Okay, I said. Understood. There was a pause. Then an idea landed in my mind so clearly it almost felt like someone whispered it to me. Actually, I added, do you have availability that same weekend for a large family reunion instead of a wedding? I could almost hear the coordinator's smile through the phone. We do, actually. Same date and time are open now since you've just canceled the ceremony. We can convert your existing booking. So I did. In one phone call, the venue that had been the stage for my humiliation became the setting for something entirely different. I rebooked the Redwood Grove for a family celebration. No aisle, no vows, no white dress, just my people, food, music, cake, and relief. After that, I emailed my ex, his mother, and Zoe. The message was short and formal. I confirmed the wedding was canceled, reminded them that any vendor deposits or contracts they'd initiated were their responsibility, not mine, and attached a screenshot of his message about my family being excluded as context. I didn't add commentary. I didn't need to. No one replied. As for his belongings, most of his life had gradually migrated into my home over the years. The deed and lease were in my name alone. I sent him a single text. You have 1 week to arrange pickup of your boxed items from the porch. You will not have access to the house. After that, anything remaining will be donated. Then I boxed up his clothes, his gadgets, his prized coffee grinder. I stacked the boxes by the door, feeling oddly detached, like I was packing up a character who'd already exited the story. I was hurt. Of course I was. There were moments where I sat on the floor, back against the wall, wondering how I hadn't seen this coming. Wondering how many small comments, jokes about my family, subtle corrections at dinner had been signposts I'd politely ignored. But underneath the hurt, there was something else, a cold, hard resolve. He wanted me to choose between him and the people who raised me, loved me, and stood by me when I had nothing. He thought he knew which way I'd bend. He was wrong. The first few RSVPs for the family celebration started popping up on social media 2 weeks later. Cousins were posting excited comments about Redwood Grove weekend, tagging me and the venue, sharing old childhood photos. I felt a flicker of joy scrolling through them, like I'd repurposed something cursed into something sacred. Then my phone lit up with his name. Dozens of texts, missed calls, voicemails. What is this, Amelia? A family reunion at the Redwood Grove? Are you insane? That's our wedding venue. You can't do this. This is ours. The wedding is canceled, I replied. You made that clear when you disinvited my family. The venue contract is in my name, and I repurposed it. You have no claim here. That's when the screaming voicemails started. Accusations of cruelty, of humiliation, of me trying to destroy him. Then came the desperate ones, where he called me baby again, where he cried and blamed the stress, promised we could still get married somewhere else, if I would just cancel the reunion and help him save face. I listened to every message once. Then I blocked his number. My family had a celebration to plan, and I had finally chosen whose voices mattered in my life. The week leading up to the reunion felt like standing on a shoreline, watching a storm gather over the ocean, and knowing there was nothing you could do to redirect it. You just had to brace yourself and hope your foundations were strong enough. My foundations, it turned out, were my family and a surprising, quiet stubbornness I hadn't realized I possessed. The first wave hit the moment my cousins started posting about the reunion. One posted a throwback picture of us as kids with the caption, "From backyard cookouts to the Redwood Grove, can't wait for our family celebration." Another shared a screenshot of the venue's website tagged with my name. The posts were innocent, joyful, exactly what they were meant to be. To my ex, they were a declaration of war. He texted me within minutes. "Amelia, what is this? A family reunion at the Redwood Grove? Are you trying to make a fool out of me?" I stared at the message. Part of me wanted to craft some long, poetic response about irony and consequences. Instead, I took a breath and kept it simple. The wedding is canceled. You made that clear when you decided my family wasn't welcome. The venue contract is in my name, and I repurposed it. You have no claim here. The typing dots appeared, disappeared, came back again. "You're insane," he wrote finally. "This is our wedding venue, our date, our place. You're doing this to hurt me." "No," I replied. "I'm doing this to honor my family. You're the one who tried to erase them." After that, the tone of his messages spiraled. The voicemails swung wildly between rage and desperation, like listening to someone argue with themselves on a roller coaster. In one, he screamed that I was cruel, vindictive, a monster. In the next, he was sobbing, calling me his love, insisting he'd only said those things because he was stressed and scared of the wedding not being perfect. Please, he said in one late-night voicemail, we can still do this. We can get married. Just not there. Cancel this thing. My mother is horrified. My friends are asking questions. You're humiliating me. I played that one on speaker with my sister sitting across from me at my kitchen table. She snorted, shaking her head. Humiliating him? The man told you your family wasn't invited to your own wedding. He humiliated himself. Her words steadied me. Still, there were moments when the guilt tried to crawl under my skin, whispering that maybe I was being too harsh, that maybe I could send one clarifying message, one smoothing explanation. Then I'd remember my mother's face when I told her the truth, the way she tried to be brave and understanding for my sake, while her eyes filled with hurt. That image snapped everything back into focus. Then Zoe got involved. Her number flashed on my screen one evening, and against my better judgment, I answered. Amelia, she began without greeting. This is beyond cruel. He is devastated. He didn't mean what he said about your family. You're rubbing his face in this. You need to cancel the reunion. Think about what you're doing to him. What I'm doing to him, I repeated slowly. He told me my family wasn't welcome at my own wedding. I chose them. Now I'm using the venue I paid for to celebrate with them. That's it. That's the entire story. If he's embarrassed, that's between him and his conscience. You know he was under pressure, she pressed. His mother was in his ear. You've always known how particular they are about appearances. He just wanted the day to be tasteful. My family is not an eyesore, I said, my voice suddenly sharp. They are not clutter to be edited out of a photograph. If he and his mother think otherwise, that's their problem, not mine. The reunion is happening. Zoe sighed dramatically. You're making a mistake. You're burning bridges you can't rebuild. Some bridges lead to bad places, I replied. I'm okay watching those burn. After that, I blocked her. Then his mother called. Her voice was saccharine sweet, strained at the edges. Amelia, dear, I think there's been a dreadful misunderstanding. He tells me you've scheduled some kind of family gathering at the Redwood Grove on what would have been your wedding day. That can't be right. It is right, I said quietly. The wedding is off. The venue is under my name. I decided to use it to celebrate with the people I love. She clucked her tongue softly. I understand you're hurt, but using the venue in this way, on that particular date, it looks vindictive. In very poor taste, honestly. He's heartbroken. We all are. You owe him an apology, and you need to make this right. Cancel the reunion. We can revisit the wedding when everyone has cooled down. Something inside me recoiled at the word owe. With all due respect, I replied, I owe him nothing. He made his choice when he tried to exclude my family. I've made mine. The reunion is on. My family is looking forward to it. Goodbye. I blocked her too. The closer we got to the date, the more I expected some dramatic escalation. I made sure I was never alone at home. My sister stayed over. My parents checked in constantly. My cousins offered to drive me to and from work. The anxiety buzzed under my skin, but underneath it, there was a growing sense of defiance. He had already tried to delete my family once. He wasn't going to delete this too. When the day finally arrived, the Redwood Grove felt like an entirely different universe from the one I had imagined as a bride. The towering trees were still there, their branches forming a natural cathedral overhead. Soft lights still hung between them, swaying gently in the breeze. But instead of rows of white chairs and a carefully curated program, there were long wooden tables loaded with food, kids darting between adults, coolers, lawn games, and the sound of my uncle tuning his guitar. My mother hugged me the second we stepped onto the grounds. You okay? She asked into my hair. For the first time in a long time, I said honestly, yeah, I think I am. My father, who had been strangely quiet through the whole ordeal, pulled me into a hug that smelled like aftershave and home. You did right by us, he murmured, and by yourself. I'm proud of you, kiddo. My sister, dressed in the outfit she had originally bought to wear as a bridesmaid, twirled in front of me with an over-dramatic flourish. Still getting my moment in this dress, she joked, just with better company. We ate barbecue instead of plated entrees. We had a massive dessert table instead of a towering wedding cake. My cousins organized impromptu games. My uncle started playing old songs on his guitar. My little nieces invented a forest princess game and danced under the lights like the world would never hurt them. The air was filled with laughter, inside jokes, and the kind of warmth you can't buy with any wedding package. At one point, I stood off to the side, watching them. My family, the people he had called a bit much and not our kind. They were loud, yes, emotional, absolutely, imperfect, without question. They were also loyal, generous, and fiercely loving. I felt a wave of fierce gratitude so strong it made my eyes sting. My aunt snapped a candid photo of me in that moment, hair slightly messy, dress simple instead of bridal, eyes shining. Later, she posted it with the caption, "Celebrating what truly matters." The venue tagged it. Other relatives shared their own pictures with captions like "Family First" and "Redwood Reunion" instead of "Redwood Wedding." I knew he would see them. I knew his mother would see them. I knew their friends would see them and start asking questions. And for once, I didn't feel panicked about that. Let them ask. Let them compare the story he was telling with the images in front of them. That night, after the last hugs, after the leftover containers were packed away and the lights at the Grove were dimmed, I lay in bed scrolling through the photos. Group shots of 3 generations, my parents holding hands, my sister laughing so hard she was doubled over. It hurt that this had almost been taken from me. It healed that I hadn't let it be. The next morning, my phone exploded again. "Amelia, we need to talk. I saw the pictures. Everyone looks like they're having the time of their lives. My friends are asking questions. My parents are livid. You have to issue some kind of statement or something. Tell people the wedding is postponed. Tell them this was pre-planned, that it wasn't meant to hurt me. You're making me a laughingstock. You have to stop this madness." 10 minutes later, another text. "You owe me for the caterer deposit. My parents paid that. And what about the suit, the decor, my mother's dress? Are you going to compensate us for those too, since you stole our venue?" The entitlement in those messages was so pure it almost took my breath away. I typed slowly, choosing every word with care. "You ended our engagement when you decided my family wasn't welcome at our wedding. Your financial arrangements with your parents and your vendors are your responsibility. The reunion was my way of honoring the people you tried to erase. Consider this the end of all discussions, just like you wanted the first time." Then I blocked him. My family had had a blast. The money I'd lost on the original deposit felt, in hindsight, like the best investment I'd ever made in my own peace of mind. But I knew, as I set my phone down and stared at the ceiling, that this still wasn't over. People like him don't walk quietly away from consequences. They look for new ways to rewrite the story. I wish I could say he walked away quietly after that last message. That blocking him ended everything, that the universe neatly closed the book and let me move on. But people like him don't step off the stage when the scene is over. They claw at the curtains, rewriting the script, desperate for one more act. And sure enough, the next act began exactly 1 week after the reunion. A formal-looking envelope appeared in my mailbox. Cream paper, embossed letterhead. My stomach dropped. For a second, I wondered if he had actually hired a lawyer. I opened it slowly, bracing myself. It wasn't from a lawyer. It was from him and his mother. The letter was almost 2 pages of rambling accusations written in polished, pretentious wording. They demanded mediation to discuss my unilateral and malicious cancellation of the wedding and my reckless misuse of the venue. They wanted financial compensation for every non-refundable deposit they had paid, the caterer, the florist, his mother's dress, even the suit he never returned. They demanded payment for emotional distress, public humiliation, and, my favorite, the return or monetary reimbursement for the value of wedding gifts already received on their side of the guest list. I actually laughed out loud at that part. My sister Sarah, who happens to be a paralegal, skimmed the letter, snorted, and said, "Amateur hour." They Googled legal terms that sound scary and just threw them in. I tossed the letter into a drawer and didn't bother replying. 2 days later, the smear campaign began. He and his little circle, Zoe and his mother at the helm, started spreading a carefully curated narrative. That I had gotten cold feet, that I had become emotionally erratic, that I had called off the wedding in a fit of spite, then used the venue to publicly humiliate him and his family. They conveniently omitted the part where he told me my family wasn't welcome. A few acquaintances, people who weren't close but had known us vaguely through social circles, sent me hesitant messages like, "Hey, I heard what happened. That seems harsh." I replied to each one with a screenshot of his exact words. "Your family is not invited to our wedding." End of discussion. Followed by a link to a public photo album titled "Celebrating What Truly Matters." Most people who confronted me went silent afterward. A few apologized. A couple even said they were proud of me for standing up for my family. His narrative cracked, then cracked again, then shattered. But he didn't stop. The dirtiest trick came 2 weeks after the reunion. One Saturday morning, the director of the kids' community center where I volunteer teaching coding asked me to come in for a private chat. My heart sank the moment she said the words "anonymous complaint." Apparently, someone had emailed the center claiming I was emotionally unstable after a publicly documented relationship breakdown and suggested I might not be suitable around children until further evaluation. My hands went cold. Attacking my reputation publicly was one thing. Weaponizing it to jeopardize something I loved, something that brought me joy every weekend, was another level of malicious. Thankfully, Mrs. Peterson, the director, had known me for years. She shut down the accusation immediately. I explained everything, showed her the messages he sent, the ultimatum he gave, the reunion pictures. I even offered to take a break from volunteering if that would help the center avoid trouble. She put a hand on mine and said, "Amelia, I know who you are. This is retaliation, not concern. Don't let someone else's bitterness steal this from you." I walked out of her office, shaky, relieved, and furious all at once. It was the first time I truly understood the depth of his entitlement. He wasn't embarrassed. He was enraged that I had taken control of the story he thought he authored. But here's the thing about stories built on lies. They collapse the moment truth stands still and refuses to move. And that collapse began spreading through his world faster than he could patch it. His friends, especially the ones who had originally bought into his narrative, started hearing what actually happened. One mutual acquaintance messaged me privately. "He told everyone your family was unstable and unfit for a formal event," she admitted. "But when we saw the screenshots, we were horrified. I'm sorry." Apparently, even Zoe began distancing herself, embarrassed by how publicly she'd defended him. His mother, furious over the money spent on deposits, turned that anger inward on him. The florist, the caterer, the decorators, they all refused refunds. Their contract wasn't with me. It was with him. He and his mother were out thousands. The Redwood Grove, ironically, gained new business after the reunion photos circulated. A couple of cousins posted their pictures with the caption, "Best reunion ever. Highly recommend this venue." The venue reposted them. Word spread. People booked. He hated that. He reportedly called the venue to complain that they shouldn't have allowed me to rebook his date. They politely reminded him that the contract was in my name and that I fulfilled every requirement as the client. He was, in the language of customer service, irrelevant. Through all this, my life slowly stabilized. I slept better. I saw my family more. My parents and sister checked in constantly, reminding me that I'd dodged a marriage built on quiet control disguised as taste and sophistication. My father said something one night that stuck with me. "People show their true colors when they think they own the moment. Be grateful he showed you this before you married him." He was right. Even with the chaos, I felt lighter than I had in years. It was as if the breakup had scoured my life clean of something toxic, and only now was I breathing fully again. Then one last ripple reached me, through a cousin who still had a few lingering connections to his extended social circle. He was telling people he'd dodged a bullet. I smiled when I heard that. He had finally said something true, because the bullet wasn't me. The bullet was the person he would have become if I'd stayed. Someone who believed cruelty was a preference, manipulation was love, and my family was a flaw to be edited out of his picture-perfect life. Instead, I walked away. I chose my family. I chose myself. And in the process, I reclaimed the wedding venue, the narrative, and the peace he thought he could take from me. My only regret? That I ever believed someone like him could love all of me without trying to shrink the parts that mattered most. But I don't carry that regret for long. I threw a reunion in the place where a wedding was supposed to be. And somehow it turned out exactly right.